Letters to an Invisible Woman. What a Fool Believes, by Boyd Campbell.
He came from somewhere back in her long ago. The sentimental fool don't see, trying hard to recreate what had yet to be created once in her life. In The Once and Future King, T.H. White talks at length about how ugly Lancelot, the perfect knight, was. Of course, I thought, that explains everything. Everybody wonders if they're ugly. I never wondered. I also never cared. There are worse things than being ugly. Vain is one. I see guys my age all the time hawking pills and supplements to make them feel manly again. What stupidity! Manhood doesn't come from a pill. It comes from within. If you haven't figured that out by 16 or 17, you never will. I used to write letters to an invisible woman and never sent them. She wasn't actually invisible. She was remarkably visible. But my connection to her had to remain invisible for the rest of our lives, even to her. There were reasons. There was no decision that how I felt must remain forever invisible. It was a condition of the universe. She was a creature of strength, the strength of light and kindness. I was also a creature of strength, the strength of fear and darkness. She was a radiant point in the sky. I was a toad, the beast. I don't mind being the beast. There are worse things. She had a place in his life. He never made her think twice. As he rises to her apology, anybody else would surely know. He's watching her go. There came, when I was 13, and the invisible woman was 13, a very painful juncture in my life. One I couldn't talk about honestly with anyone, not even my parents. At 13, everyone has all these questions about who they are and what that means. At 13, your body is changing. Mine was changing faster and more than anyone, and in ways no one expected. My life at home had a gigantic hole in it. I felt like the most alone creature ever made. I learned to live in the dark. One night, without a hint of warning, a simple act of kindness came into my life. There was light in the darkness. I don't even know if she ever thought of it or remembers it, but suddenly she made me feel seen in the swirling, confusing, often painful world of a 13-year-old. I was seen. It was probably an act of mostly pity, but that was enough. Pity is still love. I never actually had trouble talking to women. I would, in time, develop a reputation for being inconstant with the fair sex, and maybe unappreciative. There were even times when I would lie to make someone believe my regard for them was greater than it was. I do actually apologize for that, sincerely. The invisible woman remained a no-fly zone the rest of our lives, though. There were times when she would quietly place her hand where I could take it, or stand close enough that I could kiss her. But that would never happen. That moment when we were children made her the center of my universe forever. And you know what happens if you get too close to the sun? Still, there were the letters. A child with dyslexia generally has very poor penmanship. I had typewriters and computers, although they lacked a personal touch. My words came out into the world just as they do in my head. I had teachers who asked why I could draw so well, but my penmanship was a disaster. I don't know, and I honestly didn't. I had an idea what caused it, but not how or why it happened to me. I could type words of compassion and admiration to the invisible woman, then hide them away. My secret letters could say everything I never could. Physical beauty will carry even an invisible woman pretty far in life. My invisible woman possessed stunning physical beauty, but that is not the key to the story. Still, nothing will capture a heart more thoroughly than kindness and a moment of pity. an expression of the human spirit that transcends the world, indomitable, immutable, and beautiful. Some men talk about being thunderstruck by physical beauty, and it certainly happened to me. But that was never as powerful as this, even though the Invisible Woman was more beautiful than anyone, more than the sun, which was often jealous of her. So, is this another letter to the Invisible Woman? Not really. It's not personal enough, even though, if it were more personal, you'd never see it. Without beauty, the beast is just an animal. Without a moment of pity, there can be no love of self. Was I in love? That's a complicated question. One I'm not sure I can answer correctly. There are layers above in love, but they're invisible too. The Invisible Woman will always be a part of my universe, but I'll always orbit far enough away not to be consumed by the light. Beasts only thrive in darkness. Somewhere back in her long ago, where he can still believe there's a place in her life. Someday, somewhere, she will return. I was a junior in high school when What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers came out. If you know me or have read my book, my junior year in high school was my passage through the gates of hell. It was a time of death and pain. Fans have long debated the meaning of the lyrics. For me, it was very clear. This was a song about the Invisible Woman, my Invisible Woman, and how she touched my life. Besides the hell and death in my junior year, there were many times in my life when that moment gave me reason to continue. He came from somewhere back in her long ago. The sentimental fool don't see, trying hard to recreate what had yet to be created once in her life. She musters a smile for his nostalgic tale, never coming near what he wanted to say, only to realize it never really was. She had a place in his life. He never made her think twice. As he rises to her apology, anybody else would surely know. He's watching her go. But what a fool believes he sees. No wise man has the power to reason away. What seems to be is always better than nothing, and nothing at all keeps sending him somewhere back in her long ago, where he can still believe there's a place in her life. Someday, somewhere, she will return. She had a place in his life. He never made her think twice. As he rises to her apology, anybody else would surely know. He's watching her go, but what a fool believes he sees. No wise man has the power to reason away. What seems to be is always better than nothing. There's nothing at all. But what a fool believes he sees.
A Boyd Campbell is a reader-supported publication. To receive new posts and support my work, consider becoming a free or paid subscriber.